What's up guys? So it seems like Forcible beat me to the spoilers again. I wasn't able to do my my speculation video on the World Tree, so I have to do an impression video instead. I'm not going to be talking about the little fairy or the 2-drop avatar card because I don't think they're really relevant at the moment, but Alice, Excalibur, and the World Tree itself stuck out a lot to me. I think it's kind of an interesting concept, although it doesn't seem like it would be extremely competitive. The World Tree lets you summon Alice, the avatar of the 7 lands. If your life hits 0, it then replenishes it to 100 instead, and you summon Alice and Excalibur from either your hand or deck. Alice is a 15/15. Oh, well, of course, 1,500, 1,500. I'm used to cutting off the last 2 numbers, sorry. But so it's 1,500, 1,500. She has quick cast and target attack. I don't think the quick cast is necessary because she's a 6 cost, so I feel like she's only going to hit the field with Yggdrasil's effect. But I mean, maybe they did it so that on the off chance someone's using something like Reflect and they bounce it to your hand and they push for game, you could just summon it back if you have the mana for it. But even then, it seems like anything that could bounce back, other like Reflect can be glimpsed, which only costs 2, and something like Swordsman of the Full Moon can be Zeke's, which costs 2. So unless like you really don't have a hand and it's your only source of getting Alice back on the field, it's just going to be countered really easily. I mean, it seems better to counter those specific things that would affect Alice rather than try to quick cast her back in because they cost so much more. But I guess it's just a nice option to have. I just don't see it happening all the time. So the first thing about the World Tree is the whole life loss thing. If your life hits 0, you hit 100 instead. If it's damaged out by your opponent, that is, you can't force your life to hit 0 yourself. But what you can do is you can use either of these cards really early game. So let's say your opponent goes attack with Gretel and you have 4,000 life. And you have 2 stones open and it's either like a black, green, and green, or let's say red, green, and green, whatever colors you're playing. And then you go Whisper or First Lie. You can call 39 on First Lie or pay 3,900 life while they've attacked so that you just draw a bunch of cards. Well, I think Whisper is a little better. At first I thought First Lie was better, but I think Whisper is a little better because in the mirror match this would suck, and somebody pointed that out to me. I would actually really hate for them to call 39 and then you both just take damage. But with Whisper, it's just your control. It's not letting your opponent do anything. I guess there's certain situations where the First Lie might be better, but let's say using Whisper as an example, they attack with Gretel, you pay 3,900 life, you heal, you draw cards for every increment of 5, and then the Gretel's damage goes through, hits you to 0, triggers the World Tree, and then you put Alice and Excalibur into the field, and then from that point on you just play kind of Protect the King. I used to play Noble Knights in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that was kind of the same concept. The deck had a lot of different plays. It wasn't always about getting out the main card really early game, but it generally had the whole protect aspect to it. So I think the most important cards in this deck are going to be all of the counters. Normally you're punished for playing too many counters because if you just 1-for-1 them all the time and they eventually start getting some damage in, you end up losing the game. But in this sense, you almost want to lose the game because it's going to trigger Alice. So it seems like normally where certain cards may be too combo-y or certain cards might take too much setup, they don't really seem to require as much setup anymore because the worst case scenario is you're going to die and then you're going to summon Alice anyway. So something like if you do trigger, let's say, Alice really early and they pass turn, they attack with the Gretel, let's say, or the Elvish Priest, whatever, anything that's even at least 100 attack, they attack turn 2 and you triggered Alice and Excalibur. At this point on, when you untap, you have these 4 open, of course, because you're playing green. This won't be guaranteed unless you're playing blue and you have at least 1 blue-green stone. That's where it kind of gets complicated with the whole Whisper of the Abyss and First Lie combo, but the problem is that this is kind of necessary because if you play against Primogenitor and they copy Alice and Excalibur from your deck, you're just automatically going to lose. There's no way of coming back for something that strong. So needing Glimpse to stop Primogenitor seems really relevant. Everything else is just to, if they try to, like I said, summon something like Swordsman of the Full Moon to bounce or Carmilla, and they have the mana to pay, because Excalibur makes any targeting to your Alice costs 2 more. Your opponent has to pay 2 more or it's canceled. So if they do, if you're stalling out the match and you do get your stones pushed forward, the two pay for them to pay 2 more isn't going to be an issue. So you still need cards like counters to stop those things after they've paid the will. So if they go, 6 costs for Carmilla and they target Alice, you still need to be able to Zeexit and Exceed, and Cake Stone's good for spells. You can't take lethal damage if you have Excalibur because it says your opponent can't target, so stuff like Thunder won't work, but they can still split Heaven and Earth because split Heaven doesn't target, so stuff like Cake Stone and Keen Sense is really relevant. And then, like I said, with Glimpse, it's just really important to stop activates, either Reflex Bounce or Primogenitors copy your deck, or look through your deck and take 3 cards out. Stuff like that needs to be stopped. And what I mean is you don't really get punished for running cards like this is because if you have these early game and you end up taking too much damage, it's just feeding into summoning Alice anyway, so it doesn't seem like you're too... normally you wouldn't want to run so many counters because you're not getting any field presence, but your field presence is going to be free, so that's kind of a way to look at it. Then there's also the Feasting Stone. This could really help protect Alice as well. It's just, at least from spells anyway. It doesn't do anything against abilities, but if they try to do something like stoning to death, you can prevent it. That's always an option of how to protect her as well. Somebody pointed out that Realm of the Pure Spirits with the new card that's coming out for Xion, which is the Muse. Muse says that any damage you would take, which is less than Resonator's defense, is prevented. So if your opponent tries to deal damage to you, it's dealt to Alice instead. And Muse says any damage dealt to Alice is prevented if it's less than her defense. So that's, they have to do, with Excalibur, Alice is 1919, so they have to hit you harder than 19 in order to actually kill Alice. And it can kind of set up this small lock where they can't push damage in because you have Alice, Realm of Pure Spirits is protecting Muse, Muse is protecting Alice. And once again, this is the kind of combo I typically hate because I hate combo decks. I think it's not likely to see all these pieces kind of connect. But the fact that the worst case scenario is while you're setting all of these up, your opponent's just tagging you for game, it's totally fine because your life's going to hit 0 and you're going to summon Alice. So it's almost like at least one of the combo pieces is free and everything else you're just using for the game is just setting up. And I think that's a really interesting concept. If you played like white, blue, green, or just blue, green, and if you don't want to hit split and like rewriting laws or something, and you wanted to play cards like this, it doesn't seem as bad to set up because you're losing life in the process, which is fine. So unless your opponent tries to play around it a little bit, which of course is the one weakness for the deck, it's gonna like backfire. But I think it's kind of an interesting concept to be able to put these kind of cards on board that typically were not as not fast enough and whatnot earlier, but now they are. Breath of the God is another white card that protects. You can activate it on Alice, draw a card and replace this, and then she can't be targeted. That's always an option as well. Cowrie of Shallows, it's kind of just like a Feasting, but it only works on Wind Resonators and you have to tap it. It's a 3 cost, which seems really expensive, but once again, it's just an option if you're not playing the white. You can sit there and protect Alice all day and they wouldn't be able to target her. So, just do it after they pay the extra will cost and you're getting them to tap out of mana, and you just have to worry about target attacking their creatures, which, of course, Alice has target attack anyway. Feasting I think is really good because it prevents damage no matter what from Resonators. If they do somehow drop something huge, let's say you're playing against the Fire Ruler, which I'm actually like really leaning towards playing the most of. I think the Fire Ruler is really interesting. The remove from play concept is just really great to me. Let's say if he is playing that and he summons Ouroboros because everyone's talking about how Ouroboros is really good in that deck, and it happens to have swiftness and target attack and first strike, and they attack into Alice with a 20/20, so she's actually 19/19, she's gonna die. You can always just like summon Feasting and prevent damage. So Feasting is always going to be a good card for green. It also lets you just feed into having more mana without being kind of like as dead as Elvish Priest in the middle game. Elvish Priest and like Reflect isn't so bad because you could just put it away with Reflex effect. But typically you don't really want them in decks like this. It just feels kind of lackluster to draw. So Feasting I think is always going to be great. Not to mention that the one main thing about being a combo deck is normally you lack consistency in combo decks, and And that always holds you back because you can't get your combo pieces together. But they released a card called Foment of the World Tree, I believe, and it's a chant. And what it does is you get to put any card from your hand in the bottom of your deck, and then you draw that many cards plus one, so it even replaces itself. So it's like at any point you get like a free mulligan, and you even heal 800 life at the end, which is really great because it gets you out of the 100 range. And that card can essentially, like, if you want the Realm, the Muse, and the Alice and Excalibur are free, so it doesn't matter, and you want them early, you could just keep using cards like that to just keep going through your deck and setting it all up. And then when your opponent gets you down to low enough life, you would just bust out Alice and the Excalibur and kind of have an already set up field. I think the one bad thing is, once again, if they seeing you set up, they might be kind of careful about how they finish you off. So you need some kind of like outside win condition other than Alice, because they might just keep waiting and waiting and waiting until they have enough field presence to be able to actually just kill you and past Alice and everything. So it's really going to depend on how the rest of the support teams out. I think Sign of the Future is really important too, just because you want to be able to control the fact that they're trying to overextend to be able to get over everything. It'll just control their board, and I think that's a really good concept. And then the most like underrated card I think people aren't talking about right now is Glinda. Glinda's going to be extremely great in this deck because you get to make Alice untargetable, so they can't block her, so you can attack for like 1900 freely. And not to mention that Excalibur's already making them pay 2 more to target Alice. Glinda can make them pay 2 more if it's a spell. You just can kind of control their complete will and all the mana they use. And it's nice to know that you can stop their summonings, you can prevent them from stopping Alice, because that was the main problem. Like, once you got Alice on the field, it was like, okay, great. Like, if you attack, they just block, and you're not getting anywhere. Eventually, they're going to keep, getting past you until they can kill you. So I think Glinda's really, really relevant. The fact that she can swing in, make Alice swing in for so much while still protecting her. It's just kind of like one of those extra counter cards you have in the deck, but it, helps you push in damage. So it's really interesting. I think the Foment of the World Tree is extremely relevant. The ruler is pretty okay. We have to kind of see what the rest of the support is. And Alice and Excalibur seems like a really interesting concept. I really can't wait to see more. I mean, we have to wait till Tuesday, but I believe it's going to be, Monday night for anyone that's West Coast like me. But the next set of spoilers will be Monday night. And I believe they're going to be going back to Light because Kaguya was first. So I think they're going to go back to Kaguya. But once again, because it seems like white and blue would be the colors played most with this deck, it's possible that those support cards can help us as well. I also strongly feel like green's gonna get a card in this set that says either cancel target activate and it costs like 3, or it's gonna be something that I feel replaces Glimpse, because Glimpse is technically an NPR card. So if that Grim rotates out, we need something to kind of replace that. And if green got that, I think this would be completely, just absolutely complete, because the blue necessary for Glimpse is kind of a little too much. I don't want to play too many colors once again for split. You have Cake Zones and possible Keen Sense, but the less, if you could just play like a mono green, for example, you'd never have to worry about split. And we need the light, of course, and the blue might be needed for Muse too. So it really depends. Like, there's so many ways you can go about this deck from what we've seen so far, but we can't really speculate till we see everything. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys have any other ideas that I maybe missed, or have any suggestions about what some cool cards would be to use, I'd really appreciate hearing it. And if you guys haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do, because I have a ton of videos coming out soon, and I'll definitely catch you guys next time.